Exceptional Leclerc on top on the opening day of the Australian Grand Prix. The Monegasque could not be beaten by Red Bull or his teammate Carlos Sainz. However, the big story of the day comes from Williams. We will get onto that shortly. From RacingNews365.com, my name is Nick Golding, and as always, I'm joined by lead editor Ian Parks, who, as you may have noticed, is not in Australia. Ian, care to explain?
Yeah, of course. People have to bear in mind, and it's been one of those topics that's been discussed for quite a period of time. It is 24 Grand Prix at the end of the day. We know what the F1 teams feel about it, that it's just too much for some people. Well, guess what? It's just too much for us media as well on occasion. I will be attending the overwhelming majority of the races this season, but Australia and Japan are two of those that I've decided to miss. They're standalone Grand Prix. Of course, I have a budget to think of as well as a freelance journalist, and that has to be borne in mind. So Australia, Japan, yeah, off the calendar for me, but the overwhelming majority I will be attending, and I'm happy to still be here chatting to you on what is, of course, a Friday morning, because, of course, given the time zone difference, it is very early morning for us. Just gone 8 o'clock for me and Nick here as we're sitting and recording this. So hello to everyone watching. Thank you ever so much for your continued viewership. And yeah, what an intriguing practice day. And as you say, the big talking point surrounding Williams, of course. Alex Albon, major shunt in FP1, damaged both sides of that Williams. And the big talking point now surrounding that is, we know the chassis is damaged. They don't have a spare. Williams has confirmed that. And what has been confirmed is that Alex Albon's car has sustained extensive damage, too much to repair, leading to Williams making a call to withdraw that car from the remainder of the Grand Prix. Due to Williams also conceding there is no spare chassis available, it has taken the incredibly tough decision that Albon will take over the car of teammate Logan Sargeant for the remainder of the weekend. Not having that chassis is a situation team principal James Vowles has described as unacceptable in modern day Formula One. Vowles added, "It is a reflection of how behind we were in the winter period and an illustration of why we need to go through significant change in order to get ourselves in a better position for the future. As a result, we have had some very difficult decisions to make this afternoon. While Logan should not have to suffer from a mistake that he did not make, every race counts when the midfield is tighter than ever, so we have made the call based on our best potential to score points this weekend."
Williams need points. The bottom five teams are so close. 1 point could be a massive difference between finishing 10th and finishing 6th. As sad as it be for Logan, they've got to put Alex in the car.
He is the team leader at the end of the day, and I'm sure Logan accepts that as well. And if you think back to last season, that Alex scored all but one of the team's 20-odd points. For Logan, yeah, it's going to be a major disappointment, but I think he does know his position in the team, that Alex is team leader. Just moving on to Charles Leclerc, you mentioned at the top of this, great performance. He looked so comfortable in that SF24. Finished nearly 0.4 of a second quicker than Max. Max, as you mentioned as well, had his own issues, damaged the floor in FP1 with one of his own runs over the curb. They had to change that floor. That compromised him going into FP2. He lost 20 minutes of FP2 running. That backtracked him with regards to the program as to what they wanted to do. Got out on the medium tyres. That first run was compromised. But then when he got on the soft tyres, first decent run, pulled him alongside Carlos Sainz, who was second at the time. So they ended up with identical times. And then on a second run on the softs, just managed to edge ahead of Carlos, but was, as I say, nearly 0.4 of a second down on Charles. Of course, this is Max Verstappen, isn't it, in Red Bull? You got to feel that there is definitely more in hand. But for Charles, yeah, that was a really good, confident-looking session. No mistakes. Just at ease with that car. The car looks at one with the circuit from what we've seen over those two practice sessions. And he's got to be feeling good going into FP3 and qualifying, especially tomorrow. And also his teammate Carlos Sainz, a few doubts over him coming into practice today. He admitted himself after his appendicitis operation in Saudi Arabia that ruled him out of qualifying in the race, as we know. Oliver Behrman taking over there. He said that he would not be 100% fit, that he had not trained over these past 2 weeks, and he would only have a better indication as to how he was feeling after his days running. Well, he looked pretty good. To finish, as I say, around 4 tenths down on Charles, that was not a bad effort. I think he's really going to be in the mix for qualifying tomorrow. Maybe a little setup tweaks, but at the moment, it's definitely looking like Carlos, Charles, and Max for that pole position battle going into Saturday.
Well, you mentioned there as well, the thing with Max is that obviously it was turn 10 which caught him out. Today, we've seen Max being caught up by turn 10. We've seen Lewis being caught up by turn 10. Bottas span at turn 10. Russell had a mistake at turn 10. That corner in particular, the turn 9-10 complex, which is so fast, so high speed. I think in the race as well, and also in qualifying, those corners, we've seen today several yellow flags. We saw a red flag. I think qualifying tomorrow is going to be a case of, actually, we're seeing as well that the C5 compound, so the softest compound of Pirelli's range, is in use this weekend. The tyre is working for multiple laps. So I think because of this, we're going to see the teams trying to get a really good banker lap in early, especially in Q3, because the chances are we're going to have, I reckon, at least one stoppage during qualifying tomorrow.
Yeah, this is a really tricky track at the end of the day, and that's why we love Albert Park so much. And it has been modified, as we know, in recent times, and that has really made it now more of a testing challenge than it ever used to be in the past. And that's why I think we've seen so many of these incidents to date. It's been a real challenge for the drivers to get on top of this track, despite the fact that the conditions were absolutely perfect for going driving today. Clear blue skies, beautiful sunshine, nice warm temperatures, so that no complaints.
Nicer than here.
Yeah, definitely. No complaints about trying to get the tyres in the right operating window. Absolutely perfect. And yet the track has proven quite a leveler, and we've seen the cream rising to the top effectively in terms of getting the car absolutely set up, because look at what's happened with Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Well, I'll just go into that straight away, obviously now leading into it. Decent first practice. Lewis said himself that the car this season was the best it had felt. Coming out of FP2, the car this season was the worst it had felt. Toto Wolff mentioned that they'd undertaken major experimental setup changes. Those experiments did not work at all, and it's now placed the team on the back foot in trying to dial back into what worked so well into FP1 to ensure that they've got something decent to go into FP3. But Lewis not happy, Toto not happy, the team overall not happy. He finished 18th on the timesheet. Did have his own little issues as well. Soft tyre run never came together. Also had a problem with the cake tin, which is the carbon fibre brake shroud that sits around the left front. The team had to undertake gaffer tape repairs to that. Was quite interesting. I do find it quite amusing that the most technologically advanced sport in the world, and here we are, we see the teams using gaffer tape to undertake some repairs. I just find that really quite brilliant. But no, a major off day for Lewis, and they've got a lot of work to do overnight to get him back into a comfortable setup window tomorrow. His teammate George Russell, 6th, slightly compromised on one of his soft tyre runs, could have finished slightly higher, but yeah, that Mercedes, the team at the minute just does not seem to have the handle on that W15 going into what is the third race of the year. And we were expecting so much more from them as well, so they're quite a surprise at the moment.
Ahead of the season, obviously, Toto was making out that this would be, Lewis's, swan song with Mercedes. It'd be a farewell tour almost. Is this quickly unravelling into actually a bit of a nightmare? Because the W15, despite it being touted as the car that's going to get Mercedes closer to Red Bull, hopefully back on the podium, back to winning ways, it's proven to be already just as much of a diva as the W13 and the W14. Where do, okay, touch wood, they may actually have a good day tomorrow, but if they don't, going into this, then 3 different styles of circuits where they've failed.
I love that word diva as well, of course, that referencing one of Toto's words that he used with regard to one of the team's former cars. And it's kind of hung around all the time whenever there's a problem with a Mercedes, we know that. I don't think it's quite a nightmare just yet, but certainly you can tell that the frustration is building. Toto's mentioned that himself, that there is frustration building within the team. And as you say, if they don't quite get it right coming out of this weekend, going into Japan, which again is another very different type of circuit, then I think the season is slowly going to start to fall apart from them. They've got time yet. We know there's plenty of Grand Prix. It is the longest season. Too many Grand Prix. It is the longest season on the calendar. So there is time to try and get this right. But as you say, at the moment, as Toto's mentioned at the moment, that frustration starting to gnaw away at them, and they've got to start delivering sooner rather than later, because they know that they should have hit the ground running. They haven't. It's, as I say, not quite the nightmare that you mentioned, but it could slowly start to get that way if things don't start to improve.
So we've seen, especially with Mercedes last year, obviously they had good pace until obviously Russell. It was his engine that went last year, if I remember correctly, was it not?
I believe so. I'd have to look that one up, but yeah.
As rare as a Mercedes engine failure is. Okay, looking ahead to qualifying tomorrow, the first two rounds, we've both said Max on pole. You know, it's a done deal. Who are you saying for tomorrow? Because for me, I'm saying Leclerc. I think he has looked on it from the get-go. And Max, obviously, yes, okay, he was limited in FP2, so he missed almost the first half of the session. Didn't really do, that accurate a soft tyre run, but Ferrari of history at Albert Park, we know that they've always gone well here. Is tomorrow finally going to be the day when someone takes the fight to Red Bull and Max Verstappen?
I think it could well be, as you say, as we said at the top of the show, basically, that Charles looked really good, really impressive. That car definitely looks as if it's dialed into the circuit. I certainly feel that Max is going to be given the closest run for his money so far compared to what we've seen previously in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, the first two Grand Prix. It's one of those that obviously you can't rule him out. Absolutely, you can't rule him out. But I do feel that Charles just might have the edge at the moment. You'd like to hope so, at least from a neutral's perspective. And that's what we are at the end of the day. We are neutrals. We do want a great qualifying and a great race. And you've got to hope that I'm sure Max deep down inside would love a bit of a battle as well, to get his juices flowing, so to speak, to get the adrenaline going, to be pushed, because he hasn't been pushed so far. Bottom line, both qualifyings, both Grand Prix, he's not really faced a test. So let's hope from the neutral's perspective, and just to reiterate, we are not anti-Max, we are not anti-Red Bull. We just want decent on-track action. So from the neutral's perspective, fingers crossed, we get at least a really good tight battle that gives Max a good run for his money.
Well, that's all we want. Very quickly, bold prediction for tomorrow. I'm going to go first. I'm going to nominate myself. I'm going to say for a Ferrari front row lookout and Hamilton to be knocked out in Q2. I'm going for two bold predictions. How about yourself?
I like it.
Come on,
come on.
Be bold. Come on. You're not an Australian. You can't say anything that they're going to hear. So
this is true. I can't see the front row lockout for Ferrari. I genuinely can't. As much as an all Red Bull an all Ferrari front row really would shake things up going into the Grand Prix on Sunday. No, I can't see that happening, Nick. I definitely can see one Ferrari on the front row. That's without a shadow of a doubt. Bold prediction. I'm going to go Oscar Piastri top 5.
I can get behind that.
I do think he's got something. I'll go even as far as to say that he might even be 4th. I just think he's got the edge over Lando so far from what I've seen of the running. And he's on home soil. He's going to want to put on a good show. And his boss has just signed a new contract as well. Let's not mention that. That's just news floating in. Zach Brown, CEO, has signed a new long-term deal, so he's going to be there, wanting his boy to do well. And I can see Oscar, definitely top 4 or 5.
Well, okay, we'll see if that happens, and we'll come back to this tomorrow. Ian, as always, amazing stuff. For all your Formula One content, make sure you are checking out racingnews365.com. Smash this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you tomorrow after qualifying. See you later.
And don't forget to give us your comments as well, folks, because you provide sometimes the talking points for Nick and I to discuss here on our show. So drop those comments in as well. We'd love to hear from you.
I'm glad you remembered that because I completely forgot. Anyways, we'll see you later. Bye.
Take care, folks.